In my segment of the presentation, I was introducing the students to a new text that we were going to read today, also trying to capture some of the information that we were going to share with them during our time together. My name is Mrs. Owens, and with me I have Mrs. Wayman, Mrs. Panapolis, and Miss Denicola. Could you guys give them a little wave? Nice job. Okay, come on back to me. So, readers, I know that you guys just started a new unit on citizenship. And you guys have been learning about what it means to be a citizen, and you've been learning about facts and opinions. And today I'm going to share a book with you, and you already saw the cover because you guys are so smart. I'm going to share a book with you about George Washington.
That's what
Yeah. So this is a book that is an informational book. It is a non-fiction book. Can you say that word?
Non-fiction book.
Oh, you guys are so smart. And as we read this book today, we're going to learn about George Washington. But you know, I thought, I bet as first graders, you probably don't know a whole lot about him. So I'm going to read to you just a really small section. So can you guys put your eyes up here on the smartboard for me?
Yes.
And this says, who was George Washington? George Washington was the first president of the United States. He was a farmer, a soldier, and a hero. He helped America become a free country. Wow, readers, he seems like a pretty important person to us, isn't he? So today, as my friends are going to be doing this book with you, it's a little bit tricky. So we're only going to read a few parts of it with you today, but I wanted to share with you some of the important pieces of it. So can I show you some of the pictures?
Yes.
Okay, look up here. We have this section.
A house.
Oh, a house. Wow, a man, a soldier. I like that word.
Queen.
We have
Queen.
a map and a king.
Which is George Washington.
Yeah, and some other pictures.
He's married.
He's getting married. Nice. Uh-oh, looks like we might have a little bit of a battle, right? Fighting, Looks like we have some important words. Ooh, maybe more of a...
Away.
They're swimming, they're in their boats, right?
Yeah. Away from the
Some fun facts.
3, 4, 5.
Some information again. Ooh, there's a lot of pages. About going home.
Back home.
Yeah, ooh, good reader.
There's a map.
Some more maps again. Oh,
Money. I see the money.
and oh, you guys saw money, right?
And
And the most important thing in this book,
is George Washington.
this table of contents kind of tells us everything that we're going to learn about. But remember, we're only going to read a couple sections hands down. So readers, I'm going to pass this over to my friend, Mrs. Wayman. Oh my goodness, readers. She just reminded me, I forgot. The most important thing about shared reading is that we share it. You're going to do some of the reading, we're going to do some of the reading, and sometimes we're going to do it all together. Get your pinkies up. Are you ready? Give me a wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right.
Yeah.
Good job.
Switching spots.
Switching spots. As coaches, we're constantly trying to grow our craft and we're trying to become better. So every time we meet for a coach meeting, we are always going into classrooms and trying out new ways of work.
Hi readers, my name is Mrs. Wayman, and just like Miss Owens said, we're only going to select a couple of parts out of our book today because it's an informational book and we can do that, right? We don't have to start at the beginning and read all the way through to the end. We can pick the parts we want to read about. My segment was to get them started into the shared reading process, and we began with the first section focusing in on text features, but also other aspects of the text that we wanted the students to engage in. So one of the parts that we're going to read today is about growing up. So when I read the heading on my page, growing up, right? That's what it says. It said it in the table of contents. I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to be reading about George Washington and how he grew up. Yes, exactly. So we're going to read the words and find out more. Read with your eyes along with me as I go. George was born on February 22nd, 1732, on a farm in Virginia to a large family. He spent much of his time with his older brother, Lawrence. Good. Lawrence lived on a plantation. Nice. Plantation. Good. Called Mount Vernon. He was an Army officer. George wanted to be just like him. Oh, I heard some of you do that. Do you see at the end of that sentence we have
Just like him.
he should stress like him? Nice thinking, first graders. Can we read that sentence one more time with some excitement? Here we go. George wanted to be just like him. Nice job. So I've read all the text on my page, right? Am I done reading this section about growing up?
Yeah.
Have I read everything? Give me a thumbs up if you think I've read everything. Give me a thumbs down if you think there's still some more I might need to read. Oh, I do see some thumbs down. I have other parts on this page that I need to read. Remember, as smart readers, we're going to read everything on the page.
Yep.
Including looking at the illustrations. So right here, I'm going to read this. Words to know. Plantation. A large farm that grows plants for food and clothing. So that tells me if I didn't know what the word plantation was, I could look right there and that would tell me that's pretty cool, huh?
Yep.
Okay. What else do I need to read?
Those two pages.
I need to read the two on the side. How about this one at the bottom?
Yes.
Do I need to read that? Okay.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. Can we say that together?
That's a fact.
So I think that part is going to give me another fact about who?
We have George Washington.
Maybe about George Washington? Let's see. George Washington owned more than 30 foxhounds during his lifetime. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. We have a fact in the
Okay. Where else do I need to read?
Those two ones.
Oh, these two on this page? Okay.
Yeah.
George Washington grew Mount Vernon into a large... Good. It had 8,000 acres of land. Nice. Excellent. One of the primary purposes of our time together today was to practice our coaching craft, and with that we used a technique called whispering in, where the coach was sitting next to me while I was teaching, and as there were things that she wanted to mention or things that I may need to add into my lesson for that day, she very quickly whispered in so that I could then engage the students in that part of the lesson also. Yes, and Miss Owens reminded me we need to make sure that we look at the picture when we read the caption.
There's one more.
So this picture matches this caption because this caption is talking about Mount Vernon. And this is a picture of Mount Vernon and what the plantation looks like. It is a house, and it is a plantation called Mount Vernon. Okay, and I need to read this too. Thank you, ma'am. Lawrence Washington was 14 years older than his brother George. So I am so glad that I took the time to read all of those other parts on the page other than this text right here. I learned so much more, didn't I? I learned what Mount Vernon looks like. I learned that Lawrence was 14 years older. And I learned that George Washington had some foxhounds.
I was doing a follow-up to Emily's with the shared reading process, and what I had done is chosen another section of the book and did a shared read with the students, focusing on headings and captions. Hi, hello. How are you today? Good? Very good. You're such smart readers. So I'm going to go back to my table of contents, and I'm going to look for another section to read today. Okay? And I want to learn today about George Washington being the very first president. So I'm going to go to page 24. Wow, look at all of this information. I'm going to start up here with my heading, and it tells me very first president. So I'm going to stop and think. This heading's telling me that what I'm about to read is about George Washington being the very first president. Okay, so I'm going to start reading this, but I want you to read along like you did. Okay? Read the words that you know.
Yeah.
How would this new country work? In 1787, men from each state came together to write new rules for the United States. They called these rules the Constitution. And again, look at that. Constitution. Then they had to choose a new leader. George Washington was elected. The first president of the United States in 1789. It was a big job to unite the new country. All that reading. I'm done, right?
No.
I'm not.
No, you
What do I need to do now? Very good. Smart readers you are. So the first one, I'm going to start on the page that I just read. And down here, I see words to know. That's a quarter. A quarter. And it says words to know. And the word in there is unite, to bring together. So if I didn't know what the word unite meant, I could look down here and learn that it means to bring together. I try to get the students to reread the word and repeat it so they can understand what the word means. The text was quite difficult for them, so using those captions to understand the word was helping with the first grade. Then I'm going to go over to my next side,
Two more.
like you just told me, and there are two more. And this one says, in their own words. George Washington's friend, Henry Lee III, said that Washington was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. And looking at this, I see these little things right here. Do you know what they're called? Quotation marks. They're quotation marks. And inside quotation marks, anytime you see those, they're somebody's real words.
Yeah.
So we're looking in their own words, and we're reading their words.
Yeah.
Now have I finished?
No.
One more. Look at all this information. Read with
Yeah, you
me.
changed it.
Are you ready to read with me?
George Washington.
George Washington became president on April 30th, 1789. He didn't want to be called King Washington or have people bow to him. He chose to be called president. And again, I see a lot of those quotation marks. So those are someone's actual words. The important words throughout the story, the text was quite difficult for first grade level readers, so we wanted to get them to learn a few facts. So by having them repeat the words, it would, in the end, they'd understand and learn something from the text. When I'm reading and I see all of these extra things, Ms. Panapolis reminded me to tell you that they are called captions. Can you say that back to me? Captions. And when I read a page, I can read all of my information, read the text, and I'm not finished, am I? I can look over and read all the captions to find out a lot more information. Great job, readers.
Wow, my head hurts from all these facts we've learned about George Washington. How about you? Thumbs up if you've learned a lot about George Washington.
Your turn.
So as smart readers, when we study a topic like we did today, George Washington, it's great to go back and kind of recount those details that you learned. Okay, so we're going to look back at the pages that Miss Wayman and Miss Denicola studied with you, and I want to see if you can remember one important fact about George Washington that you learned. And then you're going to have a chance to turn and share with your partner. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to study like scientists. For my segment, I was doing the wrap-up, kind of gauging the learning that happened during the lesson, not only content, but also knowledge on text features and if they retain that knowledge. The pages that we read. Take a quiet moment. Maybe it's something you remember about George growing up from the running text. Maybe it was a fact coming from the captions. Okay, the captions tell us more about what's in the picture. What's one important fact under this heading, growing up, that you remember about George Washington? Give me a thumbs up when you have your fact ready. I see every thumb up. Okay, ready? When I snap my fingers, you're going to turn and share. Do you have a partner next to you? Okay, good. Ready? Turn and share. One fact. What did you learn about George Washington?
George Washington, 1733.
Turn and Talk gives a great snapshot for teachers or coaches to promote language with the students. They're sharing their thinking. I can get a quick snapshot just by jumping into the different groups to see what the kids are retaining and comprehending.
Has a brother named Lynn. He's tall in George Washington.
And what happened February 22nd, 1732?
I forgot.
Forgot. Who can help him? What happened?
He was born.
Who was born?
George was born on February 22nd, 1733.
Excellent. And my friends over here in the corner, they said he lived at what house?
A White House.
Mount.
Mount Vernon.
Oh, so close. Mount Vernon. Good. And what was that called? All that land? It's called a plantation. Good. The other fact that was brought up was that George wanted to be just like his brother. Do you remember his name?
George Washington?
Oh, they weren't both called George. His brother was, remember the caption down here? Lawrence. Good. Lawrence Washington. I was looking to see if they were retaining the most important facts learned from about George Washington and to see what knowledge they retained. If they were, kind of tells me if they were tracking along with the teacher during the first portion of the lesson. Okay, ready? All right, study, soak it all in. Remember your heading, very first. Maybe it's something you learned from the running text. Maybe it's something you learned from the, what are those called?
Captions.
Think. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, when you have your fact to share. Eyes on the smart board, honey. Turn your shoes off. Eyes up here. There you want to go. You can hold it open when I go to paper. Okay, ready, set,
Go.
turn and share.
George Washington.
Tell me if you learned anything. I just want to know. No, we're not going to go like this. Point to right.
Mine was George Washington and
1787.
excuse me, get
What did they write?
quarter.
Wow, first graders, go ahead and turn back. Thank you, Miss Denicola. So I heard a lot of amazing facts out there. We heard that he was the very first, what? Right, George Washington was the first president. Where did we learn that from? What part of the book? What part of the book? What's this called? The heading. Good. We also learned that he's on money. What kind of coin? You told me a quarter. Good. Excellent. Any other facts to share? What else did you share with your group?
That one.
Which one? When did he become the president? Do you remember that big word? Good. They call these rules the Constitution. And what year did he become president? Search for a year. Search for a number. Skim. Yes, ma'am. Oh, so close. How would this new country work in 1787? They came together to write the Constitution. But when did he become president? Keep scanning.
17.
Can you point to the date? See a year?
That's for the Constitution.
George Washington was elected. Read this with me, guys. I had the students come up to the whiteboard so they could show me where they were locating the facts. We want the students to use text evidence to support their thinking. So it's great that they were going back in the text to prove their thinking. George Washington was elected the first president of the United States in
1789.
Excellent. You guys kiss your brains. You are amazing. Go home tonight and share a fact with your parents. I challenge you. Okay?
We are able to gain so much information from students, so we're understanding if they understand what we're teaching them, the comprehension side, but also if they're just getting the gist of either the story or the skill that we're trying to teach.
I think it was a good result. It was an initial intro into text features and how they're used in an informational text, followed up by the next section where they engaged more at a higher level.
Once we have the information, we generally share it back out with the class because the questions that we tend to ask are for the greater good of the group. But then it also tells us if we need to go back and reteach or if we're able to continue forward in our teaching.
One of the difficulties I have is teaching in front of my peers. So when I go and model in classrooms, this gives me that practice. So when I go back, I can actually model the lesson, feel comfortable as a teacher, as well as a coach to coach into what the teacher's needs are.
In this instance, it's actually carried back to the teachers because we go in and we borrow a classroom of students that we don't really know. So what we try to do afterwards is debrief with the teacher to let her know kind of what our findings are.
Based on the knowledge that I see with a quick check for understanding with my students, I can gauge what my next lesson will be. Do I need to cover more time on captions and text features, or can I move forward with teaching within the standard?